In tonight's headlines, President Xi Jinping inaugurates Latin America's first Beijing-funded port in Peru ahead of the Apec summit. Cross-border travel to get easier starting next week after the implementation of the document-free channel. And Hong Kong downgrades full-year growth forecast to 2.5% after a weaker-than-expected third quarter.
Escorted by a cavalry regiment and motorcycle squad, President Xi Jinping was welcomed with full honors as he commenced his state visit to Peru, which is also hosting the annual Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. President Dina Boluarte welcomed Xi at the government palace in the capital Lima. Xi highlighted the strong momentum in China-Peru relations since his first state visit in 2016. He stated that China is eager to elevate their comprehensive strategic partnership for the benefit of both nations. Several bilateral cooperation agreements, including an updated free trade pact, were signed during the discussion. The highlight of Xi's visit was the inauguration of deepwater Chiang-Kai megaport, 80 kilometers north of Lima. Jointly funded and owned by Chinese shipping giant COSCO and Peruvian entrepreneurs, the port was officially opened in a virtual ceremony. The $3.5 billion complex is meant to serve as a hub for Chinese trade. Describing the port as a vital connection between Asia and Latin America, Xi said it will generate considerable income and enormous job opportunities for Peruvians. Xi arrived in Peru earlier in the day and was warmly greeted by Prime Minister Gustavo Adrián. Chief Executive John Lee was also present to welcome Xi at the airport. Xi is anticipated to meet U.S. President Joe Biden on the sidelines of the summit in Lima before heading to Brazil for the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro next week. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
A day after confirming to sign a free trade agreement between Hong Kong and Peru, Chief Executive John Lee continued to promote and explore opportunities in the South American country which could be beneficial to the SAR, and expressed optimism about future cooperation between Hong Kong and Apec. In the capital Lima, Lee visited an alpaca textile company which makes the highly sought-after wool fabric derived from fibers that naturally grow on the mammal. Writing on social media, Lee highlighted that entrepreneurs in Peru were interested in Hong Kong's advantages, such as its low tax rates, common law system, connectivity to mainland China, and diverse professional services. The city leader also exchanged views with Hong Kong representatives from the APEC Business Advisory Council, discussing the SAR's strength and development opportunities. In the coming days, Lee is expected to meet with leaders of other APEC member countries, aiming to foster a new chapter in economic interactions.
Crossing the border will become much more easier starting next Wednesday, when mainland Macau and Hong Kong travelers can skim through checkpoints without presenting travel documents. The pilot's program will be first introduced at the Shenzhen Bay checkpoint between Hong Kong and Shenzhen, and the Gong Bay crossing between Macau and Zhuhai, where commuters can cross boundaries using self-service gates. All Hong Kongers holding a valid mainland travel permit can use the document-free channel, provided they agree to the border inspection agency collecting facial information, fingerprints, and other information for verification. All travelers should still bring along their travel documents in case officials need to check them. The scheme will be gradually expanded to cover other border crossings.
The
city's sole delegate to the National People's Congress Standing Committee, Sterry Lee, welcomed the breakthrough scheme. Brave Chen, a lawmaker from the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, said they had collected feedbacks from frequent travelers and business people about long queuing times, especially during peak periods. This move will boost economies on all sides as traveling becomes more convenient, Chen added.
As U.S.-China relations are entering a new and uncertain era, diplomats from both sides feel the need to resume communication and strengthen dialogue. Addressing the U.S.-China-Hong Kong Forum through video link, Xie Feng, Chinese ambassador to the United States, emphasized the importance of returning to a constructive relationship.
Turning our back on each other is not an option. Conflict or confrontation would have consequences neither side can afford. In Chinese culture, we believe whenever there is an issue, the best way forward is to sit down and talk it through. While China and the United States each have our own concerns, we can well put the issues on the table, have candid communication, and find a solution through equal-footed consultation. It would be ridiculous if the very word dialogue should become a taboo, which would mean a chilling return to the Cold War era estrangement and confrontation.
The forum was also addressed by U.S. Ambassador to China Nicholas Burns, reiterating the competitive nature of U.S.-China relations while expressing hope for managing differences.
We have many critical differences with China. I want to be equally clear, however, that the United States is not seeking to decouple from China. As Secretary Janet Yellen has rightly said, decoupling would be a disaster for both of our economies. So again, our relationship is competitive and will remain competitive for many years to come. But we are now better connected and better able to manage that competition between the two governments in a responsible way.
The forum in Wanchai was also attended by Washington's former envoy to Beijing, Max Baucus, as well as U.S. officials from the State Department and the Central Intelligence Agency. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News. In a survey conducted by the Consumer Council to support the plastic-free policy, nearly 70% of eateries were happy to provide takeaways in containers brought by customers. Between August and September, council staff visited 15 restaurants to purchase 45 takeout meals using personal containers, succeeding in 31 attempts. 4 chains, Café de Coro, Saiteria, Super, and Yoshinoya, refused personal containers due to food safety and hygiene concerns. The council noted that staff at Café de Coro were impatient, and Super staff required customers to repackage their own meals. At Satay King, customers with personal containers were still charged a $1 fee for the plastic bag. There were also instances in other restaurants where customers faced additional packaging fees. The council criticized these practices, suggesting they fail to meet consumer expectations and discourage the use of personal containers. The consumer watchdog recommended offering incentives like discounts or a points system to motivate consumers for bringing their own containers.
A Consumer Council study has found that bladeless fans with heater function, a popular item found in many Hong Kong households, can vary drastically in price and performance. After testing 11 models, the Consumer Watchdog found it took longer to heat a room than conventional fan heaters. The difference in price was drastic, with the most expensive model costing $6,988, while the cheapest one was priced at $699. Notably, the most expensive fan did not necessarily give the best performance. While some models had a good airflow, they also consumed more power. The energy-efficient models, though environmentally friendly, lacked airspeed. Some brands were a failure in both aspects. The council urged consumers to take fire safety precautions when using the devices for heating purpose. Roughly 3,000 enthusiastic passengers, primarily from the United States and several European countries, arrived in Hong Kong on board the cruise ship Celebrity Solstice early in the morning, only to encounter an unexpected challenge, a temporary shortage of taxis at the Kai Tak cruise terminal, exacerbated by inclement weather. However, the Transport Department promptly intervened, deploying additional taxis to the pier. To further incentivize drivers to assist stranded passengers, taxi operators were offered an extra $50 LPG voucher on top of the existing $50 voucher aimed at encouraging service during adverse conditions. Despite a brief wait, the passengers' excitement to explore Hong Kong remained undeterred.
Hong Kong, it's a beautiful city, and we're here enjoying ourselves going to Disneyland.
While many passengers patiently awaited taxis, others chose to embrace public transport as an alternative.
So we're going to do the bus off of the ferry, off of where we're at currently. Then we'll do the MTR into the city, which also we think probably works perfectly because it's raining right now. It's also cheaper than doing a taxi. And also we enjoy doing public transport because it feels like you're more with everyone living here instead of just being in a car by yourself.
The celebrity solstice is set to make Hong Kong its home port for a new season of Asian itineraries, with a total of 12 voyages in the coming months. This is expected to attract more tourists eager to discover the city's vibrant offerings. Quentin Ya, Cable News.
Hong Kong's economy recorded sluggish growth in the third quarter, prompting the government to revise the full-year forecast for the gross domestic product to 2.5%. The SAR's GDP rose by just 1.8% year-on-year in the third quarter, which was much lower than 3.2% expansion in the previous quarter and a 2.8% increase in the first. In the first 9 months of the year, real GDP grew by 2.6% year-on-year. Taking into account the latest developments of the global and local economic situation, Hong Kong's GDP growth for 2024 is forecast to be in the range of 2.5% to 3.5%. Economist Adolphe Leung said the city's economy might get negatively impacted by declining exports due to geopolitical tensions. While the external environment has turned more challenging recently, the economy is expected to maintain its growth momentum, Leung added.